It's really interesting because actually, I think as society, and I think social media has a lot to do with this, it seems we reward intensity over consistency a lot more. And yet, the consistency is where the results have been hiding all along. And this needs ousting, right? And it's really interesting because you and I are two women that are essentially being approached by other women. I don't know about you, but the biggest driver that I have is women saying, look, I want to lose some weight. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, fine. But then we often undercover under that. There's actually a lot more going on there as well. There's the why you need to lose the weight. There's actually how much weight do you want to lose? They've come with this magic number. It's like, well, actually, you've got this magic number, but who says that's the right number?
And
And
where's it come from?
where did that come from? And what's that going to look like? And it's this idea that you need to have a smart target to work towards. And then it becomes an at all costs effort to get there. And then what happens when you get there? Do you stop? Does it reverse itself? Do you keep going? Therefore, do you get smaller? And I don't know about you, but I think this is where we do speak the same language, is that I'm trying very hard to make the process the goal so that women are actually going, right, this idea of doing something repeatably, day after day after day, and then allowing the results that are right for them actually start to show up. How do you feel about that?
You've got to give it time, you've got to give it a chance. But if you're not putting in the work, that's not going to work anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, ideal people know that I'm a strengths coach and they know that I don't specialize in weight loss. However, weight loss is always something that they do come to me with. And I'm like, well, actually, did you know that lifting weights, lifting heavy and improving your strength will actually absolutely support and contribute to weight loss?
Yeah.
I get a lot of business women and I'm like, you've got a successful business, which means you have all the skills to be successful in this area too. We just need to transfer those skills over to here. So you're building your business, you started with the foundations and you did the boring stuff first and consistently before you started adding in the extra. That's what we're going to do. We're going to start to build your foundations of your body
Yes.
with 5 lifts.
Yes.
And those 5 lifts they're gonna work everything, but we're gonna build those foundations consistently. When you've got the consistency down and you've got used to those lifts, then we can start to add in the extra bits.
There's such an overwhelming food environment out there, and you probably see it in exercise as well, is that somebody every single day is selling a new magic formula of macro and
Yeah.
micronutrients that come together that are going to give, and they lift up their shirt and they show you their abs, and you're just like, okay, right. And we all know that it's not true, but at the same time, I think a lot of women who are vulnerable are perhaps seduced by hope, which is what keeps them clicking, particularly when it's a 29 or 59 pound course. Um,
Yeah.
but like you, I've spent a very long time looking at research, looking at my training, and just thinking, in a world where information is abundant, we actually need to somehow denoise that and we need to bring it back to what's really important. And this is what I saw in your 5 lifts. And I have a similar sort of blueprint, which is right, what really matters here? How do we build those foundations? And it's all about, for me, it's the protein, the fiber, and the healthy fats. And it's not obsessing over the grams, because as soon as we start talking the language of grams, you've lost people already. Part of we're being told grams, but we're also being told to eat whole foods, and whole foods don't come in gram perfect portions. So it's really just building a level of literacy around the different foods that you like that can give you those staples and how you can do it time and time again, consistently, whether you're at work, whether you're having a busy time with your daughter or your son, or whether you're on a work trip, whether you're going out for a working lunch, and how you've just got that blueprint. And I completely with you on that, in that actually build that and then the nuance can come later.
I love that so much. And I say to people, like, people will ask me about food. I'm like, look, I will help you with your food. I will guide you with food. Bearing in mind, I am not a dietitian or a nutritionist. I have done very basic training as part of my personal training course with that. But where I'm coming from will be experience. Well, it depends on where they're starting. I'm like, the first thing I want you to look at is your water intake. Are you hydrated? Are you drinking enough? And the second thing I do want you to look at is your protein intake. Are you willing to track your calories? Yes or no? The reason I want you to track isn't to get you into this lifestyle of tracking, but it's to get you mindful about what food looks like. Now, I don't want you to come into this and think I've got to track forever. No, there's two things I want to do. First thing, I want you to become mindful of what a portion looks like.
Yeah.
What does a portion of fiber look like on your plate? What does a portion of protein look like on your plate? You've cut out carbs before, you've thought about cutting out fats. How about we see what a portion of fat looks like on your plate? And then you can become mindful of it so you don't have to track it. And then the other reason I want you to track at the beginning is to give us data. Let's think of it as data collection, right? Let's think about it like you look at your income versus your outgoings when you want to buy something like a car, or you want to treat yourself or whatever. Let's look at calories this way just to collect some data to see where we are.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that way it will be easier for me to go, well, actually, could you add another 20 grams of chicken into this meal? And let's just top up your protein just a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Because actually, what it says on paper compared to what it is that they actually need are two very different things. And this is a lot of work that I still think needs doing. Is that there's somehow with women, there's this idea that I think across nutrition across the board is we've become so obsessed with the metrics and the grams, and of course that's a range anyway because some people need more, some people need less. But I do completely agree, most people are actually under eating protein. But then of course you've got this echo chamber out there where you've got people that disagree, and there are a lot of very impressive scientists out there that say actually you don't need all of that. But again, it depends on what your goals are, right? In your case, people are trying to build muscle, and the protein's the building blocks. So I think that's a really interesting point. But I completely agree with you that one of the things that I worry about, and I'm going down this route, as you might see, about food confidence. I believe that women have fallen out of confidence with food. They don't know what to do anymore because of a huge number of factors. They've tried and they failed too many times. It's almost like a relationship breakup. You've got
Yeah.
to rebuild that very important innate relationship we have with food to be able to nourish ourselves. And I think that what's really interesting is that women are overwhelmed, and it's getting back to like, right, well, I know what I need to eat, but you don't want to be outsourcing every decision you make to an app, a tracker, an expert. You want to be able to do it, like you say, just do it enough. Find a way that makes you go, this is what it looks like, this is what it looks like, and then you can park it. And providing you have got faith in that process that we've put in place to be consistent with these very important things, whether it's the weights you're lifting or whether it's the food that you're eating, then you can start to be consistent with that. And
Yeah.
you can park the outsourcing. And I think that's then where the work is, isn't it? Because you do it for 6 to 8 weeks and they're like, okay, I'm doing it. But it's the expectation of results now, because we've seen the 28-day plans and the detoxes and the hacking and everything. And it's like, stick with it. And I think that's the danger zone for a lot of women, is the whole like, oh, I've been doing this for 8 weeks now. Hmm. And you have to try and come back to that message that we're building something that's going to last you 5, 10, 15, 20 years here. Stop having your head turned by everything else that's going on out there and believe in the process. Is
Yeah.
that something you find with your women as well?
100%. Yeah. 100%. I'm like, the reason you're talking to me is this exact thing because you've done all the other little bits and they've worked for a while maybe, but then they stopped or they weren't sustainable with your lifestyle or your other goals. And because if you'd already found the solution, you wouldn't be speaking to me.
Exactly right. And this is where I would love to talk to you about this idea of beliefs, the belief versus the reality tension that's going on in women's heads. In that, I guess, coming from a dietary point of view, we've all grown up with different dietary trends. But of course, when we were little, it was all about calorie counting. It was about cardio work, wasn't it? And, burning calories, that's straightforward, what you eat and then what you expend and creating the deficit. And there is a really intense, deep-rooted belief that even though we've read so much, women have read so much about why that doesn't work anymore, there needs to be some kind of handheld through that transition of where the belief is saying one thing, the science is saying the other, and then the two forces compete with each other. And I find that's the biggest tension that I have to work with women on is going, it's okay. You hear this message about, during perimenopause, you actually need to eat more now to support your body. Otherwise, it sees it as a threat and it's going to retain, cortisol goes up, belly fat stays on. And women are like, okay, fine, yeah, I need to eat more. And then they hang up and go, how do I eat more? Eat more is going to make me fat. I don't want to eat more.
Yeah,
What is it I should be eating more of?
yeah,
And I think that's the overwhelming part now, isn't it? And just trying to silence that. So I'm just
yeah.
interested, what's the biggest mismatch you encounter between what women should be doing and what belief is sitting there chipping away and not allowing them to move forward?
I think the cardio is a big one. Well, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight and I want to tone up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do cardio first, and focus on my diet because that's going to help me burn weight. That's going to help me lose weight. And then I'll come to you and learn how to lift to tone up. I'm like, right, okay. First of all, why don't we just use weights and muscle building to burn the fat for you more efficiently? And they're like, well, no, because that will make me put on weight because muscle weighs heavier than fat. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like, no, actually, it doesn't. A pound of fat is exactly the same weight as a pound of muscle. Like, no, muscle is denser
Bang
than
on.
fat. It weighs 1 gram. What 1 pound is exactly the same as 1 pound. It's the same weight. Okay, and that's a big thing. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the hostess said live on this podcast, "Well, muscle weighs more than fat." And I'm like, actually, no, no, it doesn't.
Let's
Right?
talk volumes here and then we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. So let's get that out of our heads right now. And you know what? Most people go, "Of course it does." Of course it does. And I'm like, yes, it does. It's just denser. However, the other thing is, if we build muscle, it's going to help you with the curves. And the curves is what's going to help you with the toned look. You can't get a toned look without building muscle. And they're like, yeah, because I don't want to be bulky. I'm like, right, first of all, you're a woman. So are you taking testosterone artificially? No, of course not. And they're quite offended. I'm like, right, in that case, you're
You're all
not
right.
going to bulk.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you can't bulk by accident. And if you said that to a man who was in really good shape, he would probably be offended because he's aware of the amount of hours, sacrifices, and effort it took him with natural testosterone to get to where he is. So actually, it's quite rude to assume that you're just going to do it by accident. Even a man won't do it by accident, and he's got everything on his side. So why don't we just dismiss those things and go, if I build muscle, it will actually help me burn fat. And
And
they're like,
yeah, this is it.
they don't they don't understand it. And I'm like, do you need me to strip it back more for you? Because I don't want to patronize you, but I do want to educate you. And you need to tell me where that line is. And most women are like, right, I obviously know nothing. So strip it back for me. And I'm like, I'm not trying to make this simple to make you feel like you're stupid. I'm
Yeah.
trying to make this simple so we can actually use that knowledge in a way that you understand and can implement it.
Bang on. And I really love this because, of course, if you're building metabolic capacity, right? Which is a really fantastic complementary skill to have as a sort of part of your building to have if, like you say, weight loss is your goal. Now, that's interesting because there's a parallel with part of my philosophy as well, which is this whole don't restrict, just build. And it's like, just build. Build suggests we have to eat more, and that still feels a little bit uncomfortable. But a lot of what I do with women is, again, stripping it back. It's like, right, if we build a foundation upon which you feel genuinely full and fueled and satisfied on the food you've eaten because you've eaten something really good that ticks those three boxes, which typically comes down to protein, fiber, and fat. It's my favorite acronym in everything I do, PFF. Um, that is going to stop you from doing the reactive eating later on in the day. It's actually going to stop the thing that you're really worried about having to. It's a bit like got to burn it off with cardio. Oh, I've got to try and restrict. It's the whole calorie thing. You're talking about building metabolic capacity. I'm talking about building meals. And I've got this phrase. I thought just build meals that do their job. Build meals that do their job. Because when you've got a meal that does its job and you've engineered it out of some really important whole food, sorry, building blocks, then you're cooking on gas and you do that consistently. So coming back to this idea of, for sure, women want to look better, don't they? But I think you and I both just hit the nail on the head here. You don't have to restrict. You're saying just build your muscle, and I'm saying just build your food. And of course, then you've got your food that's fueling your muscle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs that. And something that I use to break down, and I love this because I feel like everybody can relate to it. I'm like, do you drive? Yeah. Do you have a petrol or a diesel? Oh, I have a petrol. Okay. If you put petrol in your car, it would run for longer, more optimal. If you put premium petrol in your car, it would run for longer and even more optimal. So why don't we think about, because food is fuel, why don't we think about putting better fuel in our bodies?
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't need to mean more volume because the quality is better. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, right. I'm like, yeah, we can still enjoy it,
Yeah.
but let's, it's fuel at the end of the day. Is it fuel that we're burning? Is it fuel where we're overspilling the tank? What is it?
Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about the fuel side of things because one of the frustrations I have at the moment, and I think you commented on a LinkedIn post that I did about it last week, is this idea that we've almost sort of lost our relationship with food to a certain extent because we're like, okay, well, food, fuel, we need to be optimizing, and I'm getting there is so much stuff out there that is telling me that I can just whack supplements in and I can optimize
Yeah,
everything. So this idea of optimizing and I can have some collagen and I can have some magnesium and I can have some protein. It's all coming in powdered form. And it's this idea that you can sort of hack your way to good nutrition in pill and powder form. And absolutely, it ticks that nutritional box, ticks 40 grams of protein, da 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 da. But is that really what we want? And it's one of the biggest barriers I have is that as women go, actually, do you know what? I don't really need to eat anymore because there's all these powder products out there and they come with guarantees, and therefore I can just sort
they're
of
convenient.
and exactly it's convenient and it comes with a very convincing marketing budget.
Oh yeah.
That nobody these lovely whole foods that are sitting on the corner of the supermarket without a budget, perhaps even covered in dirt. They don't speak for themselves, but actually these guys over here in this fancy packet, which have all been derived from these guys over here in the corner, are screaming and we're buying them. And it's this idea that you can hack your way to good nutrition. Do you have similar conversations with women who think perhaps they can just sort of hack themselves to toned muscles and to a good physique? And are you the
Not
person?
really.
Okay,
No, I don't. That's not really something I come across much. Um,
that's
when it
interesting. I
comes,
think people maybe therefore know that when it comes to exercise, they've got to do the work, whereas perhaps
yeah, I think so. I think what I come across is I'll take this woman I started with last week, for example. She's 39 and never exercised before in her life.
Mm.
And I said, do you mind me asking why? And she went, well, in all honesty, I never needed to. I was a size 8, and even after I had my daughter, who's now 7, I went back to being a size 8. Don't get me wrong, I was moving, but I wasn't exercising at all. And she's Punjabi lady, so she said my food has always been very cultural, lots of flavors, but it's all home cooked. And she said, and I said, okay, so what changed? And she said, my job. My job changed 2 years ago. I went from a job where I was on my feet. It wasn't particularly active, but I was on my feet most of the day to a job now where I'm quite stagnant and I'm sitting down. And I think that's the difference. And this is where I kind of get women come to me. They're like, past their aesthetics stage
Yes.
and I want to feel better stage. They're in that sort of stage.
Mm.
And I actually have a harder time convincing my clients to take protein powder or there's two things that I recommend. There's three things I recommend. First of all, if they're open, go and get a blood test and let's see what we're working with.
Mm.
Right. Second thing is if you're struggling to hit your base protein's food. But if you're struggling to get you where we want to get you, let's have a protein shake.
Mm.
If you're really struggling after a workout, let's get you a protein shake in that you can drink in the car on the way back, just to stop you then from binge eating because you're starving,
Exactly. And it's this
right?
idea of the fueling now to stop the reactivity later. So
Yes.
you're in control here. You're not here.
Yes. And after the gym's perfect because let's face it, after the gym or after your workout, most people, their first thing is either get in the car and drive home or go and have a shower.
Yeah.
Now, if we can go, right, I've just finished my workout, I'm actually not hungry, but I know I need to be hydrated. Let's get a protein shake in because then after you've driven home and after you've had your shower, when you will be starving, you then don't have to rush to make a good choice or cook,
Yeah.
right? You've then got that time buffer because you've got a little bit of lining in your stomach. That's good. That's a good thing. And it tops up your hydration, which is also something we're looking at. So that's a big thing. And then, so those are the two things. And then the other thing I will usually recommend women to look at, not necessarily take, but look at is magnesium, because the women that I look after, sleep is a big barrier to their health goals because they're either not getting it or they're not getting good quality.
Mm. And
So those are the three things I sort of recommend, but I don't push it.
no, absolutely. But it's so much, it's just a little bit of awareness, isn't it? You've almost got to plant the seed initially, because one thing I have learnt over the years, you can't do the work for women. And it's quite
No,
frustrating because when you do it, and of course, we both got to this stage through doing a lot of work ourselves and a lot of experimenting and a lot of researching and a lot of talking to people and learning and becoming qualified. But you can't tell somebody what to do. The fact that they've picked up the phone and they've come to us in the first place is wonderful. And there are some fantastic, and this is what I think where you and I are quite aligned here, in that we've got some really good sort of blueprints really for women to work with. But there's a lot of nuance that's required as well, isn't there? Just like, right, okay, what are those questions you need to ask? What's realistic in your world? What isn't realistic in your world?
yeah,
And how can we build consistency in an inconsistent world for you?
yes,
And that's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because actually, if you go down a plan, like you were talking about earlier, then you're setting yourselves up to fail, because plans work on days when plans work. And actually, I
yes,
think a framework and an element of flexibility and an element of you can do this anywhere. Like you were saying, if you've got body weight only exercises, you can do it in a hotel room, you can do it on a campsite.
yeah.
And you'll be proud of me. I just got into my I do a 30 press ups a morning routine now. That's my
Oh,
thing.
nice.
Admittedly, three lots of 10 with a little break in between, but I feel it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's it's really it's and it's such a small thing to do, but it's building those habits, isn't it? And
Yeah,
it's not being afraid to start small and holding people and allowing it to validate the next move,
yeah,
and managing expectations that it doesn't happen overnight, but every single time you show up, every time you work out, every time you create that meal that keeps you full, filled, and satisfied, in my case, out of protein, fiber, and fat, is money in the bank for the next day and the next day. So I
yeah.
think we need our mission, make consistency a sexy word.
Yes, absolutely. Love
I think
that.
I think we've got a mission there. I think we can have some fun with that.
I don't know about the women who go to you, but the women who come to me, they know that because they've built a successful business.
Yeah,
You haven't built a successful business without consistency.
yeah, Yeah.
And without laying foundations, you just haven't done it.
Yeah, exactly right. And so food, exactly feels strangely unresolved, and you get this whole, okay, so I've done, and actually it's interesting. It almost becomes a bit of a personal issue for them, I find that, like you say, I'm successful in every part of my life, not me personally, but these women, I nail a job day to day. I've got a family. I get to the gym and they're ticking everything. But when it comes to knowing what to eat in the evening, it's one step too far. And
Yeah.
it's the
Decision
either
fatigue
it's
there.
the decision fatigue, it's that the
And that's a
compounding of the
big
micro
part of my
decision.
brand, decision fatigue.
Absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
like, I'm like, you get to the gym and you are so overwhelmed and decision fatigued that if you had somebody to just tell you what to do, how
Bang.
to do it, and how many times to do it, you would do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because
that's what I can do for you.
you walk into a gym, don't you? And actually, you've got tons of equipment, tons of weights, different people doing different things. And it's, that you've got the same thing happens in a kitchen. You walk into the kitchen, you open your fridge, and I do it all the time. I know what I'm doing. I open the fridge sometimes. I'm like, oh God. And
Yeah,
lucky, I've got a full fridge and it's all stuff that I like. What am I going to make tonight? How much time have I got? What do the kids want tonight? Who's at which club when? Can I make it that we can eat in shifts and that two of us eat now, two of us eat later? And
yeah,
whatever's happening, I'm like, right, like you, the five lists, protein, fiber, fat, right, that's coming out. Here we go. And you start cooking from that. And it's just this blueprint that, it's not as simple as protein, fiber, fat. And a lot of the work that I do with women is like, right, now we've got to make it yours. You've got to own those sources of, you've got to know what it looks like. You've got to know how to find it on a menu. You've got to know how to add it into a menu if you can't see it there immediately. You've got to know how to listen to your body. Did you have enough of those things? Coming back to your saying about reflecting, eat, reflect, tweak slightly, repeat, and just have faith in a process. And so, yeah, the idea of putting a process in place and seeing the results happen rather than coming to someone like your idea with this magazine cutout saying, I want to look like that. That's what we're working with, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I get like, I want the body I had back in my 20s. And I'm like, right, okay, does your life look the same?
Yeah.
Oh no, then maybe this is a little bit unrealistic. However, can we get you in an even better position? Can we get you in even better shape than you were in your 20s? Yeah, that's possible. And they're like, no, I'll never be in a gooder shape as that. I was like, maybe, but is it possible? Absolutely. Like I work with people who are retired and they're like, I've never been in this good a shape in my life.
Yeah.
And a big thing that I'm for is one of the reasons I want you to get stronger is to transfer that into your everyday life. Do you want to retire and still be able to do your gardening? Do you want to retire and still do your own shopping? Do you right now need to look after an elderly relative or a small grandchild or child? Do you need to be able to pick them up? Do you need to be able to move furniture because you're living on your own? If you need or want to be able to be capable of doing all of these things, how about we build you the body that is going to allow you to do that?
Absolutely. And this is that brilliant phrase that keeps coming up time and time again, isn't it? Is that you want your lifespan and your health span to match. You
Yes.
want to be dancing, you want to be the last woman dancing at your children's wedding. And that's one of my goals. And I think that that's where this whole short term, hey, have the body beautiful now, which actually, let's be honest, if you really, really restrict, eat tons of protein and really, really lift, you probably can look really hot in a dress at a wedding this summer. But
Yeah.
actually, what next? And it is the longevity. It is that idea of putting the foundations in place for the years to come to be the best version of who you can. And that is exactly what I'm about as well. I love it.
Yeah.
I
Fantastic.
always, I love talking to people like this because it's just like my husband always uses this term. And he says, we're violently agreeing. I'm like, yes, we are, aren't we? Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah. Yeah, we can just geek out on this forever and be very happy about it.
Exactly right, exactly right. So to any women out there that might have actually watched all the way to the end of our conversation, it really is, isn't it? It's consistency. It's putting in the work. It's not looking for the daily validation. It's not looking for the scales to shrink, etc. It's knowing and having that confidence that what it is that you're doing day after day after day is money in the bank for now, for next year, the year after. And
Yeah.
and of course, it's not just about what you look like. It's your brain functionality. It's your ability to show up with a level of vitality, which is
Yeah.
such an attractive work. But the word vitality, how do you measure that? You can't, but you know if you've got it because you feel it. And
Yeah.
and that's
100%. So
yeah,
my mom brought me up on this. The thing is, a healthy person is very rarely sick. Not necessarily because they're healthy, but when they feel something is off, they react to it in a positive way to stop it from getting further.
yeah,
An unhealthy person probably doesn't even recognize they're sick until they're already sick
yeah,
because they don't recognize those signs.
yeah,
And I've had that in my head forever. And
yeah.
I'm like, as I've got older, I'm like, this is right. This is completely right. Like, I can feel something's off. I'm not sure whether it's this or this. However, I'm going to react to it now before it becomes a thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that internal guiding star, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually you take with you, and it just you don't know who's going to be the person that puts that little bit of wisdom into you. But I certainly know that in some of the work that I do, it's like let's just if you can just have that little tiny something to take you on your journey that you can refer back to, it just shows the power of a few words, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really important.
absolutely. How about we just have this conversation and continue this conversation, but live on camera?
That would be great. And why don't we put something about if you've got any questions in this recording, let us know, and that can be the agenda for the next one.
Yeah,
You up for doing this
absolutely.
again?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I
But
love
yeah,
having
I think
allies in this world. I
yeah, for sure.
for
For
sure.
sure.
It's gorgeous to meet you.
Let's get rid of that overwhelm and that nonsense noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's girl power all the way.